Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my daughter-in-law take my late husband's wedding ring? Original post. I'm a widow in my 60s. My husband passed away 10 years ago and I've kept his wedding ring in a little box with some of his things. It's nothing fancy, just a plain gold band, but it's one of the few things I still have that feels like him. Sometimes when I miss him, I take it out and hold it. It's been a real comfort over the years. My daughter-in-law, Jenna, has always commented on the ring when she visits. She'll say things like, "It's so timeless," or "I'd love to wear something with that kind of history." I thought she was just being nice, but last week, she came right out and asked if she could borrow it for a while. I didn't really know how to respond at first. She said wearing it would help her feel closer to the family and honor my husband. I told her I wasn't comfortable with that. The ring is so personal to me. It's not just something you loan out. It's a part of my memories with him. But Jenna didn't seem to understand. She got upset and said she didn't think I trusted her and that I was being selfish for keeping something so meaningful to our family locked away. She even said it would mean more to her to wear it than for me to just keep it in a box. My son didn't really say much at a time, but later I got a text from Jenna. It was long and emotional. She said she was hurt and that I was treating her like an outsider and that maybe I was too stuck in the past to see how much this would mean to her. She even hinted that I was being controlling, which honestly broke my heart. Now, some other family members are saying I'm overreacting and that is just a ring, but it doesn't feel that way to me. My husband and I were married for 35 years. That ring has been with me through everything. Good times, bad times, raising our kids. I don't want to sound dramatic, but it feels like a piece of him is still with me. I can't imagine letting it out of my sight. I'm starting to wonder if I'm being unreasonable though. Jenna seems to think I'm trying to shut her out, and the last thing I want is to cause tension in the family. I don't know if I should apologize or stick to my decision. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. She's not even related to your husband? Like a child requesting it, I can see. But it's her father-in-law's wedding ring. Lol, she can get lost. She has zero claim to it. Not the a-hole. I really appreciate your support. I've been feeling so conflicted, but it helps to hear that others understand how personal this is to me. I would buy a chain and start wearing it. That way you know where it is. Not the a-hole. WTF? Who are these family members saying your late husband's wedding ring is just another piece of jewelry? That's bananas. Not the a-hole, but your daughter-in-law and any family members encouraging this lunacy are. She was wildly out of line to ask for the ring. This is crazy. Even if it was your son/his son asking, that would be iffy and totally reasonable to say no. The wedding ring was a special symbol between you and your husband. No one else. This is wild. Also, if the ring isn't that big of a deal, then it's not a big deal to wear it. Can't have it both ways to those saying it's not a big deal. Daughter-in-law, while I appreciate that you want to form stronger bonds with our family, this isn't the way to do it. That ring isn't something I would ever loan out or give to anyone else. It is a symbol of my 35-year marriage to the love of my life. It was inappropriate for you to ask for it in the first place, and wildly inappropriate for you to react this way to me saying no. I really can't believe this even has to be said. Damn. Also, I would hide a ring when she or your son is over. Or wear it. Thank you for understanding. It's been such a hard thing to navigate. I feel awful for saying no to Jenna because I really do want her to feel part of the family. And I didn't mean to hurt her feelings. It's just that the ring is so deeply personal to me. Every time I look at it, it reminds me of my husband and all the years we spent together. I've been trying to think of ways to make it up to her or help her feel more connected, but I just don't know what to do without giving up something that means so much to me. I feel stuck, and the last thing I want is to cause tension. I didn't expect this to become such a big issue. It's honestly been weighing on me. Now for the update. Something really weird just happened, and I don't even know what to think. You know how Jenna's been acting strangely lately? The whole ring thing, getting rid of my late husband's belongings, and being obsessed with his ring? Well, let me tell you, this situation just got worse. Really, really bad. At 6 a.m. this morning, my son called me. He said he was worried about Jenna because she wasn't feeling well. He asked me to come over and sit with her. Honestly, I wasn't in the mood to deal with it and didn't even want to go, but since he asked, I figured I should do my part. When I got there, she was lying on the couch looking pale and shaky. She didn't look like herself at all. I immediately suggested taking her to the ER, but she snapped at me and insisted she was fine. When I told her she needed to see a doctor, she screamed at me to leave her alone and get out. She was clearly angry and didn't want me there at all, but I thought maybe I could at least help her feel more comfortable. I told her I was going to use the bathroom and then I'll leave her be. While washing my hands, I noticed the guest bedroom door was open. I didn't think much of it at first, but then I figured maybe I could grab her an extra pillow or something. She didn't seem to be resting well and could probably use something more comfortable. I wasn't trying to snoop, I was just trying to be helpful. But when I pulled a pillow down from the top shelf of the closet, I noticed something behind it, a box I'd never seen before. It looked out of place, like it had been shoved there or hidden. At first, I didn't recognize the box, but when I opened it, well, you're not going to believe what I found inside. First, there was my husband's old fishing hat. I thought we'd already gotten rid of all his old stuff when they helped me clean the house, but here it was, tucked away. Then there were some other random things. His old scratched-up sunglasses and a pack of Black & Milds. I'm certain I didn't buy them, but I know my husband used to smoke them occasionally. At the bottom of the box was a creased Polaroid photo. It was a picture of Jenna. She looked like she was in her late teens or early 20s, standing in front of a lighthouse I immediately recognized. It was a place we used to visit as a family, years before Jenna and my son even met. I have no idea why it was in there with my husband's things. I'm sitting here scratching my head because this is so confusing. Why would you keep these old things? And what is that picture doing in there? Jenna screamed at me to leave from the other room, and I was so startled that I put everything back and just left. I don't want her to find out I was snooping, but I can't stop thinking about it. I'm shaking. What just happened? That girl is your husband's affair child. I can't prove it, but my intuition strongly says no. There has to be another explanation. I'm working on figuring it all out as we speak. This is a seriously twisted update. The fact that Jenna has a picture of herself as a child in front of a lighthouse where you and your husband took your family is far too coincidental. The fact that Jenna is so obsessed with your husband's belongings and has this picture in a box of his secretly hidden items is very troubling. Is there any possibility that your husband and Jenna had a previous relationship before she met your son? Could he have dated her mother and been a father figure to her? Is it possible that your husband is her father? At this point, I would seriously wonder about the current relationship she has with your son and how random or coincidental their first meeting really was. All of this is adding up to some seriously twisted stalker vibes. If Jenna suspects you've discovered her secret box, she may try to relocate the evidence. Jenna sounds incredibly unstable, and I'm guessing your son will ignore your concerns unless you can gather more information or documentation about Jenna, your husband, and their past. For the sake of your son and the rest of your family, I suggest you hire a professional investigator to uncover what you might not be able to figure out on your own. It's all so unsettling. The picture by the lighthouse really got to me. It's such a personal memory for our family. People are saying my husband might have had some connection to Jenna's mother, but I just can't believe he'd stoop so low. All I know about her mother is that Jenna had a rough childhood, grew up in foster care, and isn't in contact with her. We've never even met her. The idea that Jenna somehow forced her way into my son's life feels too strange to ignore. But I don't even know where to start. Part of me doesn't want to dig deeper, but at this point, I might not have a choice. I hope she doesn't know I snooped or found her box. But now I'm worried she might move it, which is another reason I'm so unsure of how to confront the situation. Regardless of the truth, I can't imagine a scenario where Jenna would come clean, at least not in a calm and kind way. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that my wife isn't spoiled, her husband just doesn't like her? I, 34 male, am married to the love of my life, Michelle, 31 female, and we've been together for 13 years, married for 11. My wife is chronically ill, and as soon as it was financially feasible, I suggested she quit her job and stay at home. Since then, I've become quite successful in my career, and I've encouraged her to get out of the house to pursue hobbies we didn't have the money, time, or energy for before. We are incredibly happy with the direction our life is going, and Michelle's mental and physical health has never been better. We split household chores according to how Michelle is feeling. On her good days, she'll usually do just about everything that needs to be done before I even get home. On days when her illness is acting up, a lot of it falls on me. I honestly don't mind. There isn't a whole lot for us to do on a day-to-day basis, besides laundry, dishes, cooking, and tending to the dogs. We have a housekeeper who comes once a week and handles most of the major stuff. I enjoy cooking, and on days she can't do anything, I typically only have about an hour's worth of chores. I also just generally like to spoil her and bring her home gifts and trinkets, encourage and financially support her hobbies, and take her on 2 weekly dates and vacations. I like seeing her happy. My sister, Karen, cannot wrap her head around this concept. Her husband, Bill, works in the same industry as me, making similar money. However, Bill does not treat Karen the way I treat Michelle. Bill won't let Karen be a stay-at-home wife. She frequently mentions how he rarely takes her on dates or brings her home flowers or gifts, how he isn't generous with his money, and how it should be their money. Despite this, she has always criticized my wife for being spoiled. Anytime I mention what my wife happens to be up to that day, example in a cooking class, golfing, painting, my sister gets huffy and makes comments about how lucky my wife must feel and how surprised she is that Michelle stays busy. If I mention ever having to do a single bit of housework, Karen talks about how selfish Michelle is for not doing her part, saying that cooking breakfast is the least my wife could do. If I tell my mother about the emerald earrings I bought Michelle, the spa day I sent her on, or the new recipe I'm making for her tomorrow, Karen makes comments about how our relationship isn't equal and that I'm being taken advantage of. Recently, at a family dinner that neither Bill nor my wife attended, I casually mentioned to my mom that after dinner, I needed to run a load of laundry so I'd have clean pants for work the next day. My wife was having a bad flare-up and had been confined to the couch. My sister scoffed and loudly said, "If she wasn't so spoiled, you wouldn't be coming home to a bunch of chores." I responded with, "My wife isn't spoiled. Your husband just doesn't like you," and asked her why she's forced to work if her husband makes as much as me. She got mad. My parents were irritated and I was asked to leave the dinner. My sister has since sent me texts calling me names, and my mother has reached out saying that what I said was insensitive and asking me to apologize. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister sounds bitter because her husband doesn't treat her with the same love and care you show your wife. And instead of addressing that, she's taking it out on you and Michelle. Honestly, she's projecting her frustrations. And while your comment was spicy, it seems like it hit a nerve because there's truth to it. She needs to stop comparing her marriage to yours and work on her own issues with Bill. You're just out here loving your wife and doing what works for your relationship. Chronic illness is not a choice. It's insensitive of your sister to dismiss your wife's health struggles and imply that she's selfish for not contributing equally to household chores when she's experiencing a flare-up. Not the a-hole for being honest. She's just jealous that you treat your wife the way she wants her husband to treat her. What I don't understand is why they're mad at you when she's the one constantly talking smack about your wife. Maybe they need to step back and think about why they're okay with how your sister speaks to you but not okay with what you said. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's parents to take care of dad's affair baby if he needs a babysitter because I won't? My parents are getting a divorce. 6 months ago, we found out Dad has a kid of 4 with someone else. Dad was cheating, probably a lot and with a ton of women if his reaction was anything to go by. My mom kicked him out, the house is hers, and said his kid wasn't allowed to live with us. Dad ended up moving into a place owned by his parents. They're wealthy. I, 16 male, don't see him. My siblings, 13 female, 12 male, saw him once, but the judge said we didn't have to go and see him. We don't want to see him, so we don't go. My dad's parents were never very present in our lives, but now they're acting like we were once close, and that we're punishing the whole family for what dad did. It started when dad texted me and asked me to babysit for him. I can't block him yet while court stuff is still ongoing. Apparently, a judge wouldn't look at that in a good light and could change the custody stuff if we ever sever all ties right now. Having his number unblocked is enough. I ignored his texts, and then his parents showed up at our house and told me I needed to babysit my sibling and spend time with them because we'll be family forever. I said no. They tried to argue, but I said I won't be in the kid's life, so there's no forever. I said I don't want to know the kid, or dad, or any of them. Then mom made them leave. Dad texted some more. We saved these messages and mom's lawyer documented them, but I ignored those too. Then his parents tried again, and I told them I don't want to take care of dad's affair baby. They can since they've got money and they want this kid. I said I don't, and that's not changing. They told me the child is innocent, and I said I know, but I don't go out of my way to get to know innocent kids I see in the world. And I'm not going to do it for this one either. They told me I'm still punishing a child who's my sibling, and that the kid will grow up wondering why their 3 half-siblings won't even speak to them. They also said I'd be paid for babysitting, which makes my stubbornness even worse. Am I the a-hole? Nope, not the a-hole. You've got freedom of choice, and you've made your choice. You did great telling your grandparents to watch the kid themselves if they're so bent out of shape about it. Next time, you should also tell them that it's not your fault or responsibility that their son threw his nice life in the toilet. And it's actually their fault for not raising him with better morals. Not the a-hole. They're right, the kid is innocent, but it seems they forgot you're a kid too. Not the a-hole. And in what way is the 16-year-old not babysitting punishing the kid? Ridiculous. It's punishing the adults who don't want to watch the kid either. They care about themselves, not opiate his siblings. Hopefully when the court stuff is over, the kids can all block their sperm donor and his parents and have peaceful lives going forward. Not the a-hole. Exactly as you say, this kid is a stranger to you, and innocent or not, is not part of your life. You have the right to decide who you have in your life, and it's perfectly reasonable not to want to have anything to do with this child. Opie and their full siblings are innocent too. They're not the ones who cheated on their spouse, but they're still being punished by having their family ripped apart. Forcing them to do extra chores, babysitting, is punishing them for something they didn't do. Am I the a-hole for refusing to buy my stepdaughter a car like my daughters? I, female 38, have a 16-year-old daughter. About 7 years ago, her dad and I divorced because he found out he was gay. Him being the only breadwinner and a high earner at that. And me being a housewife, he preferred to let us live in our house, a big one in a gated community, and continued paying all our expenses and giving me spending money to maintain my lifestyle. 2 years later, I met my current husband. A year later, we married and he moved in with me and my daughter. Him and my ex are great friends, especially since my ex is still very much part of our lives. Also, as a wedding gift, he gave me his half of the house, and now I own it in full. My husband has a daughter with his ex. They have shared custody and she lives with us half the time. The problem is that my ex pays for our daughter to go to a really expensive private school, buys her expensive gifts. And for her birthday, he bought her a $60,000 car. And my husband can't afford the same for his daughter. My daughter and her stepsister do not have the best relationship, mainly because my husband's ex hoped that they would be getting back together and keeps poisoning her daughter. My daughter used to share her stuff until her stepsister started ruining them on purpose. That was when my husband made a rule that they can't borrow from each other. I stay out of it since she refuses to see me as a parent, and I won't force her. My husband has a good job, but nothing as close as to what my ex earns. And since we both decided that the house is enough help for my ex, our income is just what he earns, which in my opinion is more than enough. Now my stepdaughter's 16th birthday is coming up. She asked for the same car that my ex gave my daughter. We refused, of course, and said we would buy her a car that fits our budget. She threw a tantrum and threatened my husband that she would never talk with him again if he didn't get her the same car. He is wavering, but I refuse. $60,000 plus dollars is just under what he makes a year. It will drown us in debt, and we are still paying off his student loans and some medical debt he has. But on the other hand, he loves his daughter a lot, and I feel partly responsible, since she wouldn't have asked for it if my daughter didn't get a car for her birthday. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your ex bought your daughter the car, right? So tell your stepdaughter that her mother can buy her a car to make it equal. This is the best answer to this, honestly. I love answers like that do like an Uno reverse onto people. I would warn Opie, though, to be careful of stepsister keying/damaging her daughter's car, or even trying to take it for a joyride/steal the keys if she knows where Opie's daughter keeps them, in retaliation or jealousy. Opie should talk to her husband about what to do if this happens, and to check with insurance to see if it would be covered. I would also talk to X about the concern of this, considering he bought it and it was a gift to their daughter. Maybe all three could come up with a game plan on what would happen in that scenario. This is a real possibility if the ex is poisoning Opie's stepdaughter, and the stepdaughter was already destroying her daughter's stuff to begin with. Also, Opie has to be real clear with her husband. While he wants his daughter to be happy, she wants her daughter and her belongings to be safe, and that if she damages the car, she cannot stay with them. Her daughter, as a repeated victim, would come first. It would be just like how he would put his daughter first if the situation was reversed. It would suck for him, understandably, but it isn't healthy for Opie's daughter to be in this situation. And if Opie's daughter goes to live with her dad, which isn't fair to Opie or daughter as it was originally her and her parents' house, the stepdaughter's hate will turn towards Opie and mess with her. Not stay home. Like you said, you can't afford it, and that is enough reason to not buy it. If she continues, tell her in the spirit of fairness, her mom should be the one getting it for her, since your daughter got it from the parent that is not part of your relationship. Life isn't always fair. Stepsister would have had a privilege of using said things if she hadn't been a brat and purposely ruined them. So logically, her mom can buy it. Seeing as it didn't come from Opie's household, hers shouldn't either. Not stay home. It is way out of your budget. The fact that you guys are offering to buy her a car at all is more than a lot of teenagers get. Is it unfair that your daughter has a $60,000 car while your stepdaughter won't? I mean, I can see how it seems that way from a teenager's perspective. But your daughter received that gift from her father, not from you or your new husband. It would be one thing if you and hubby decided to buy your daughter a car, but not your stepdaughter. But you can't demand a gift from you that your daughter got from someone else. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my grandmother give me her house after my stepbrother thought he'd get it and had already renovated it? I've been mostly estranged from my father since I was 15, and I've only ever maintained a relationship with my grandmother. The estrangement was due to my mom, him, and me. I won't blame him entirely. When I was 23, I found out that my father had given my grandmother's home to my stepbrother. My father had given it under the assumption that my grandmother would give it to him once she passed away, which she'd promised to do several times. My brother was older, married, and had a child and apparently needed a home. I have nothing against him as a person, but I was feeling bitter about it, and basically griped to my grandmother how my father had sidelined me again. After I vented, I made myself forget about the house. My grandmother passed away earlier this year, and to everyone's surprise, had given the house to me instead. It was obviously a very awkward situation. It was made even more awkward when I found out that my stepbrother and his wife had completely got renovated most of the house by putting in nearly $90,000 of their own money. My father called me and begged me to let him buy the house for around $150,000, so my stepbrother wouldn't have to pay for his mistake. Here is where I think I'm the a-hole. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever be able to own a house otherwise. So I told my father I will be keeping the house, and I gave notice to my stepbrother to move out. I've since moved into the house, and while I'm slightly guilty about enjoying a renovated house that I didn't pay for, I can't help but think this whole mess would have been avoided if my father had waited to receive the house before giving it away. I've since had a conversation with my father about why my grandmother might have done what she did because of me venting to her, and he's upset. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Grandma made a choice. They were foolish to funnel money into something they never owned. Your dad can give him $90,000 to make up for it. Congratulations on your new home. Get security cameras. Just because you want something doesn't make it yours. Your dad assumed it did. You didn't. You were allowed to vent. You were allowed to be hurt. And your grandmother obviously agreed with you. There's no background detail here, but your stepbrother was her step too. And if older, presumably not in her life as a child, not stay home at all. Agreed, not stay home. Opie mentions venting to Grandma without expectations. Perhaps Grandma appreciated spending time with Opie, who genuinely enjoyed her company, rather than because they anticipated a posthumous payday. Perhaps Grandma felt better leaving a gift to someone she actually felt loved by. Maybe stepbrother or dad did something to spoil the relationship behind the scenes that we don't know about. Either way, stepbrother jumped the gun with the renovations, and dad is to blame, and should be on the hook financially for promising more than he could provide. If dad doesn't return the $90,000 and Opie actually enjoys the renos, I'd personally consult a lawyer about how to gift some of that renovation cost back to stepbrother without opening myself up to lawsuits, since that would go a long way towards the down payment. I'm sure Grandma was watching those renovations and felt a little resentful that someone felt like they could just take what was hers without asking, act like they owned it, all while treating someone who really loved her like garbage. She did this on purpose. Not stay home. Your dad can take the $150,000 he offered you and reimburse his son. Stepson. Which makes Opie even more of not stay home since their father was trying to snub his own biological child. That's a big nope on the step versus biological kid part. I'm a step kid, my stepdad is just my dad. All the important dad stuff, my stepdad did. Took me to braces appointments, listened to my terrible clarinet playing, gave me a hug when boys and girls rejected me. Step versus biological parent is a case-by-case situation, and using biology as a determining factor isn't always a great idea. That being said, no, he shouldn't have given his son a house that wasn't his to give. Not stay home. They were foolish to invest so much in a house they didn't own. If you've been estranged since you were 15, I would argue you do more help as you've not had the parental support he had. You were a child at 15, and he could have made more effort. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-husband he doesn't need to meet the kids, half-sibling? My 37 female ex-husband, 43, and I split 7 years ago after his affair partner reached out to me and told me she was expecting a child with him. He tried to work things out with me, but I was over the marriage and over him. We went our separate ways, worked out custody, and I've done my best to move on. I met my current husband shortly after the divorce, but waited until the kids were more adjusted to the situation before introducing them. I remarried 4 years ago, and have just recently had my daughter. The kids, 8 female, 10 male, are super excited about their new sister, and I guess they brought excitement to their dad's house. We alternate weeks, as he's now asking questions about their new half-sister. He said that since she's going to be a part of the kids' lives, he should at least be allowed to meet her. This makes literally no sense to me, because she's not related to this man even in the slightest, and she'll have pretty much nothing to do with him at all besides maybe being at mutual family events. I told him he was way out of bounds, and that I wouldn't be obliging this stupid and strange request. Since this point, the kids, I assume he put it in their heads, ask when the baby can meet their dad, and I've explained as kindly as possible that it probably won't happen and they've been bumped out since. My former mother-in-law and father-in-law are saying that I'm being extremely petty, and that they'd love to meet the baby too, and that I need to move past things and be more accepting of the dynamic. I'm baffled and feel like I'm in a twilight zone. My husband said it's up to me and that as long as there's clear-cut boundaries, he'll accept what I choose, but I feel like this is pretty open and shut. I feel crazy though, because other people in my situation have allowed this to happen, and I'm just wondering if I'm actually wrong here. Info, I have never officially met his affair baby, nor do I plan to. He lives full-time with his mother and only sees his half-siblings maybe once or twice a year, if even that. And no, this is not my choice, as I don't stake claim over when they meet or how. I'm aware he'll meet her at some point. I just don't see a point in an adult, who's nearly a stranger, meeting her before she can even remember him. She'll never have any reason to meet him besides a few times a year, and she won't really comprehend who he is until she's 2 or 3. His affair partner and him are not together. She believes once a cheater, always a cheater. Her and I agree on this at least. I do not have to like him to co-parent. I don't care to meet him for coffee, go to his family reunions. He's asked me to attend with the kids that I told him pound sound. My reasons being that he is manipulative, and in the past, has used events where we're all together to try and play house with me. As stated before, I've taken the not my circus, not my monkeys approach. I have no direct reason to involve myself, and I frankly don't want to. Now for the comments. Not stay home. It would be weird if you actively prevent your ex from meeting your youngest when you happen to be in the same place. Example, at one of the elder's kids' graduation ceremonies or birthday parties. But there is no reason he specifically needs to be introduced to your youngest. There's no reason at all the ex-husband or any of his family need to meet the new baby. They're not at all her family and never will be. Yes, if you're at a mutual event like a graduation for one of the shared children, fine, he can come say hello. But he has no good reason to be involved with her at all. If he has his own third kid with the affair, assuming she kept the baby, he can stay away from yours. It sucks for your two shared children, but that's 8 and 10 if it's just explained that they have their dad, who's different than their sister, and their time with their dad is just for them, that's enough. They'll get over the disappointment. It seems like it would maybe make sense if the kid was older to meet these people before a big family event, but I cannot figure out why they need to meet a baby who has zero clue who anyone is. Not stay home. He's still trying to involve himself in your life beyond what is necessary and appropriate. Good on you for nipping that in the bud. Continue to be firm about your boundaries. There's absolutely no need for him to meet your daughter, especially with the way your marriage ended. Not stay home. Screw these people. That's your baby and people need to understand boundaries. He's your ex for a reason. Stand your ground, mama. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that she doesn't deserve the title of grandmother? My wife Kate and I got married about a year ago. It was a small ceremony with very few people in attendance. None of my family members, except my brother, were invited. Kate has a 5-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. When we first started, Kate, my family, but especially my mom, would make derogatory comments about how I shouldn't be with a single mother. My mom would say things like, "You shouldn't be raising another man's child," or "Kate is only using you for free child support." Those comments were extremely hurtful, and I made a decision to distance myself from most of them. Around Christmas time last year, my brother and his 2 young children died unexpectedly. The incident devastated my entire family, and we are all still processing this loss. Because of their death, I have begun to see my family more. To celebrate my late nephew's birthday, Kate invited my sister-in-law for a nice dinner. My sister-in-law, without our knowledge, brought my mom along. Kate, though surprised, didn't say anything to my sister-in-law or my mom. At first, the dinner was going well. Everyone was nice, the conversation was light and fun. At one point, my daughter woke up, and my wife and I knew that she wouldn't go back to sleep knowing her aunt was in the house, so we let her stay up with us. We let her watch some TV and play with her toys, and she was paying no attention to the grown-ups. My mom decides to pick my daughter to try and play with her. She starts crying and thrashing around, but my mom refuses to let go, muttering stuff about how she'll get over it. Kate essentially had to force my daughter out of my mother's hands in order to calm her down in a different room. Once everything was sorted, Kate came back out with my daughter and my mom started yelling at her about how she was turning her granddaughter away from her grandmother and how she was poisoning her mind. I obviously got upset with her and told her that maybe it's because she doesn't deserve the title of grandmother. This only added fuel to the fire. My mom stormed out, taking my sister-in-law with her. She later sends me a lengthy message about how I shouldn't have said that considering recent events, the death of her 2 grandchildren. Now I feel extremely guilty. Not stay home. Firstly, if this is Kate's daughter from the previous relationship, your mom has no right to use her as a surrogate after the loss and her previous comments. Also, this is a living being, not a plush toy. Sorry for your loss, Opie. Granddaughter-grandmother relationships can happen without being related by blood, but Opie's mother can't just demand something like this, especially considering her abusive behavior. My husband's stepmom is an amazing grandmother to my kids. She is grandma. His bio mom lives far away and my mom refused to meet them when she was alive. Her choice. She chose her ex-husband over me and knew he wasn't allowed near me or my kids. And if he showed up, he'd have went missing. If my mom popped back up trying to be grandma, I'd laugh and kick her out. If she was alive, zombie grandma'd definitely be kicked out. Some people aren't made to be grandparents, and blood definitely doesn't mean anything. Not stay home. I'm sorry for your loss. Your mom doesn't get to exclude your child, and then suddenly decides she's accepting of her because she wants to replace her biological grandchildren. That's awful. Not stay home. She didn't want to be a grandmother. You took that away. Fair enough. Just that circumstances have changed doesn't mean you and the kid changed too. Also, the lack of consent grabbing is not cool. She's a major a-hole for that. You don't force a kid to get over it for your, not sure what it even is, ego? Satisfaction? Self-importance? Am I the a-hole for throwing out my husband's dinner after I went to eat at his mom's house? My mother-in-law calls every night to ask what we're having for dinner. Then she brags about what she's cooking to make me look bad, especially for getting takeout. I used to care, but not anymore. But my husband would ask me to make dinner, only for him to go eat the dinner his mom makes at her home, which is 10 minutes away, and using the "that's my favorite meal" excuse. Yesterday, I wanted to surprise him by cooking one of his favorite meals, and although I was busy, I took time off work to cook. I even went grocery shopping to get what I needed. Later, as I was setting the table, his mom called. I told him he didn't have to answer, but he did. And like usual, she asked what we were having, but acted surprised that I cooked this meal. She then went on to tell him she cooked X meal and told him to come over. He said okay, which shocked me. I said, seriously? As he started dressing up getting ready to leave. He told me no offense, but this meal that his mom cooked was even more of a favorite than the one I cooked, and grabbed his keys and left. I felt awful. I took his plate and threw it out, then ate my portion. As I was about to put the plate in the dishwasher, he got home looking angry, saying his mom lied about cooking that favorite meal and used it as an excuse to force him to eat dinner with her. I was shocked, but he sat down telling me to go ahead and reheat dinner. I told him no dinner after he abandoned it. I threw it out. He said, what? And I told him he disrespected my time and effort and chose to go eat with his mom instead. He began yelling at me, asking if I really did that. Then called me petty and horrible, then went upstairs saying what I did was 100 times worse than what his mom did. I definitely feel like I let my anger and frustrations get the best of me, but it really felt unbearable having to live like this for so long. By the way, I'm 26 and he's 28. Edited to add to make one thing clear, and that's the fact that my husband only does this when it comes to food. He lived with his mom, attended community college, and loved and still loves her food and is used to it. She gave me recipes to make and I tried to do that, but he keeps switching homes just to eat what he feels like. Now for the top comments. Not stay home. Why in the world is he telling you to go heat dinner? Did a T-Rex attack him and eats his arms on the way back from his mom's? Did he try to catch a piano falling from the sky so it didn't land on a child playing and all his fingers are broke? Did he anger a forest fairy and she cursed him and now he has 2 sets of legs instead of hands? Or is that him waving a huge red flag? These are all good theories, but have you considered that her husband may actually be a stray cat enchanted to appear human? That would explain why he wanders from house to house asking to be fed, and then picks and chooses from what's offered. If you're gonna keep a stray cat, don't forget to neuter him. Not stay home. Your husband can either commit to eating at home with you, tell you well before dinner that he's eating with his mom, or he can make his own meals. Until he starts regularly making a choice to be home or go with enough time for you to plan and prep your cooking, cook enough for only you, he's on his own. Edited to add, I wasn't going to say it because I feel it's obvious, but I can't help myself. This is much larger of an issue than dinner time. There is a profound lack of respect in your relationship. Husband needs to snip the apron strings at the very least, but really needs to spend some serious time thinking about what the marriage and partnership actually means. Not stay home. You didn't make him lick the empty plate, did you? I say you were restrained. My mother-in-law was an award-winning Southern chef. My husband is a chef. My son is a chef. I cook well, but I'm not a chef. Not one of them has ever disrespected my cooking. People who are genuinely good at something and confident in their abilities don't usually feel the need to put others down. This is a million times over. Talent isn't afraid of other people's interests and ability. Also, not the a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for my reasons of no +1s on my wedding, causing several people not to attend? I'm getting married, and like every other bride, I do have certain rules I want for my wedding to go smoothly. One of them is the no +1s rule. Only people named in the invitation are invited. The criteria I have for people who will get to bring their partners are 1. Both me and my fiancé know of your partner and have met them. If I know your partner and my fiancé doesn't, that disqualifies them and vice versa. 2. If I'd personally go to dinner with you and your partner. 3. If I'd invite your partner as a separate person anyway and not just because they're your partner. 4. If your partner is also a friend of mine. Those who meet that criteria get to bring their partners. If they don't, then they don't bring them. Simple. That also includes long-term relationships, engaged couple, and married couples as well. We know it might seem harsh, but those are the rules we've decided to set so we can be more comfortable. It has nothing to do with budget or venue capacity. Purely our choice. Several people have denied the invitation to our wedding due to these rules. One of them is also my cousin. My cousin has been engaged to this girl for 1 year now, and he was upset we didn't include her. The reason she was excluded was because my fiancé hasn't met her, and she's not a person I'd personally be friends with either. I told my cousin how heartbroken I am that he will not come to the wedding due to this, and I expressed my distaste for the fact that he can't be away from his fiancé for a few hours to honor me and my fiancé. Couples don't have to be together the whole time. Then he basically told me I'm being extremely disrespectful and a huge a-hole. I asked him to explain, and he said word for word, "Let me get this clear. You want me to come to honor you to your wedding, honor your love story and all that, but you can't respect me enough to invite my fiancé? I can be without my fiancé for several hours. Heck, we can even spend days apart on vacations with our own separate friend groups sometimes. What bothers me is not being away from my fiancé for some hours, but the fact that you excluded her for those reasons." I told him those are the rules. Take it or leave it. He says he finds my rules extremely disrespectful, but since it's my wedding, he has no say in it. I told him good, and to stop BSing me then and show his support and respect by attending. He said that while he respects my extremely exclusive and disrespectful rules, I'm a fool to believe that he will care more about valuing my wedding over his fiancé. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole for guilt-tripping your cousin and anyone else you try to pull this crap with. Your wedding, your rules. But people are allowed to not attend for not liking your rules. Suck it up. Right? The girl is literally pending their own wedding. Family. Opie's probably not getting an invitation to theirs either. Haha. You're the a-hole. And she'll have the audacity to wonder why and think her cousin is being a jerk. She's the a-hole for sure. Only Opie appears to be able to have rules. The cousin's rule is to not attend weddings where he can't bring his fiancé, which I find to be totally reasonable. Opie doesn't believe others are allowed to be upset with her rules, but she's allowed to be upset with others' rules. You're the a-hole. You want people to come celebrate your marriage and your relationship by asking them to leave their spouse or long-term partner at home? You are misusing the word +1. That is intended for truly single people. Established couples are to be treated as a unit. Sure, your wedding and your rules and all that BS. But if you create BS rules like this, you have to expect people to decline. If I had a relative tell me my spouse wasn't invited because circumstances hadn't allowed the two of them to meet yet, I decline too. Agreed. And an invitation is just that. An invitation, and not a summon. If people RSVP declining to come, they can decline for any reason. Absurd rules or not. Personally, I would decline in an instant if my significant other, dating, engaged, married, or otherwise, was not invited. Expect the same respect for your new marriage as you've shown those other long-term relationships. You're the a-hole. Yep, Opie gonna be real pissed in the future when her spouse is not invited to family gatherings, but she did it to herself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not reading my ex-friend's essay about everything wrong with me? Recently, a friend, 32 female of 9 years Hawaii, 27 female considered one of my good friends, texted me completely out of the blue saying that she didn't want to come to my wedding or be my friend anymore. Some backstory. I knew the friendship was fading but had just assumed we would slowly go our separate ways. Over the past few years, I have often gone to her house to comfort her about everything that went wrong in her life, including things she really had a choice in changing. Example, she didn't counter offer enough at her job before signing the contract. Her new boyfriend snores and then she yells at him. Her new e-scooter's battery is too heavy to get to her great new job, etc. In contrast, in the past few years, my two parents have had 3 cancer diagnoses between them. And my sister died, and anytime I try to talk to her about this, she just changed the subject. Anyway, this all happened 3 days after coming to my apartment, laughing, chatting, and exchanging gifts and books. When she was at my house, the only moment that seemed to upset her is when I asked her if she wanted to help organize my bachelorette party. She said she felt she wouldn't do a good job. I said I didn't really care and wasn't sure if I wanted one anyway, and it could just be drinks and a movie at my place, if that. She was a bit cagey about it, but at no point said no. Perhaps I could have picked up on this. But also, I think if you don't want to do something, just tell me. So a few days later, I get this long text saying he didn't want to be my friend anymore or come to my wedding. I was obviously upset because any rejection feels like garbage, and I tried to call her to discuss it, but she wouldn't pick up. She said we should take time to let it sink in. I was still upset, but just decided to give her some time. After a day or two, I realized that anyone who would act like she did with no explanation wasn't someone I wanted to be friends with anyway. 5 days later, she messages to say she has written an essay on all her issues with me that I won't like. Also, that it is too big to send by WhatsApp, frequently used in Europe for texting, so she will email it to me? This was accompanied by a lot of smiley emojis and friendly exclamation marks. I told her not to send the essay because I wouldn't read it as I no longer wanted anything to do with her, and I blocked her on WhatsApp. She then sent me green texts telling me I wouldn't grow if I didn't read this essay and that I was selfish. I then blocked her and everything. I'm sure I wasn't fully in the right, but the way she dealt with this whole situation seems completely wild to me. Am I the a-hole for not reading her letter? Now for the comments. The fact that this person thinks it's appropriate to send you an essay detailing everything they think is wrong with you tells me that you're not a problem here. Not the a-hole. But how will she ever grow as a human unless she reads the essay? Maybe she decides to grow as a mildly annoyed duck. Who are you to decide her career? Yeah, you're not the a-hole. Your friend has ended this and now seems to be telling you you're the problem? I wouldn't want to hear it either, so you're completely correct to ask for it not to be sent. People like that seem to believe they are better than everyone else and are never to blame for anything. In my experience, they usually are the main cause of most issues and actually have very warped sense of self and the world around them. She sounds jealous of you and is trying to rain on your parade. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Friends don't need to break up with long dramatic text messages or essays. They can just stop hanging out. If she just wants drama, she can go watch Netflix or something instead. Absolutely this. I've always had way more respect for the friend that just slowly distanced herself from me until I got a hint than I do for the friend who chewed me out aggressively for 5 minutes and then tried to be like, I'm happy to see you around and be civil though. Last story. Am I the a-hole for saying I'll drop out as a groomsman over my sister's wedding if she includes our mom's ex? My mom and I raised my younger sisters and I, now 24 female, 26 female, and 32 male, mostly alone. When we were really young, there were some POS boyfriends including my bio dad, but when we were 0, 2, and 8, she moved us to a new town and started fresh, just a single mom. But when we were 8, 10, and 16, her boyfriend/partner Henry also moved in with us part-time and eventually full-time. I had an okay relationship with Henry. He was fine, but we weren't close. After high school, I enlisted, and when we were 12, 14, and 20, he cheated and they broke up. He then married a woman he cheated with .001 seconds later. My mom was devastated, especially because she didn't date much to begin with, because she'd had bad experiences in the past and really thought he was one of the good ones. He was the first guy she'd taken a chance with in a decade. Post-divorce fallout, Henry did keep in touch, but I didn't really respond. My middle sister did though. She would still talk to Henry. My mom knew and hated it but didn't stop it. And Henry and his wife would reward her for it by buying her things my mom couldn't afford to buy for her, like a new MacBook, and even letting him give her a bit of money for her college tuition. He offered it to all three of us, but she's the only one who accepted. Now, sister is getting married, and my mom, as promised years ago, gave her a budget of $10,000 for her wedding. She had already told me in private that Henry and his wife would be in attendance, and I guessed they'd given her money as well, even though she was telling my mom that she/significant other were covering the rest. She told me officially today that they were giving her $10,000 as well, and the wedding budget is $16,000, so she'll get to keep what she doesn't spend. She told me that she wanted my support in breaking this to our mom at some points before the wedding, and that at the actual wedding, she wanted to acknowledge Henry/his wife in their thank you speeches, and have Henry at the head table. Her husband is estranged from his family, so the seating would go left to right. Her three bridesmaids, our mom, her, the groom, Henry, the three groomsmen. I said that she could do what she wanted, but that I thought it was embarrassing for our mom, especially in front of our extended family. She got upset, and I finally said, "Look, if you want this so bad, fine, but I'm not sitting at the same table as him then, so I guess you'll be down a groomsman." She said, "You're not going to go," and I said, "I'll go. I'm just not willing to sit 2 seats down from the guy who cheated on our mom, and who you only like because he buys you things." She got even more upset, and called me names on the phone and later over text. Our youngest sister refuses to get involved, and just wants us to get along. She's never taken money from him, but she's also one of those people who hates people spending money on her, so she hasn't taken money from anyone else either. Not today, home. She's choosing to hurt your mom for money. I wouldn't stand up for her either. I don't care if the wild speculators are right about her choosing the cheater over the innocent victim, because he's the only father figure in her life, and she's actually choosing to hurt her mom for her dad, not just for money. Her mom being the only mother figure in her life doesn't seem to mean anything to her. Not today, home. I wouldn't go either, and I hope your mom doesn't. Not today, home. Your sister needs to woman up here. If she wants a relationship with Henry, or at least Henry's money, so be it. But she can't compel the rest of you to be on board with that. And she certainly isn't going to be able to do it by hiding the truth. So tell her to tell mom on her own, before you need to give her a heads up that she's going to be sharing a table with her cheating ex and his affair partner. I'd prefer it if she hid it by not putting him at head table and thanking him in private. It's hurtful to our mom. But she is telling her. That's why she called me. She was telling me first, but planning to tell her soon. Normally she/we just hide stuff like this. Your sister is a self-absorbed, selfish prick. Not gonna lie, I kinda hope karma gets her and she has a similar life to her mom, where her own kids choose money over the person who single-handedly raised them. Praying for karma against her. I personally would be no contact with someone like your sister. If she could do this to her own mother, I can only imagine what she can do to others.